They will say that I have shed innocent blood. What's blood for, if not for shedding? With my hook for a hand, I'll split you from your groin to your gullet.
Hereditary. Hereditary is a film created by A24, which is a production studio known for putting out some of the best horror films I've seen in the last 3 years. Stars Toni Collette, Alex Wolff, and Millie Shapiro. Directed by Ari Asters. This film basically is about when Ellen, the matriarch of the Grant family, passes away, her daughter and grandchildren begin to unravel cryptic and increasingly terrifying secrets about their ancestry, trying to outrun the sinister fate they seem to have inherited. Now, before I get into this film, to give you a little background, when I was like in elementary school, my favorite movie was Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. You know, I watched all the Nightmare on Elm Streets over and over again as a child. I've watched all the Halloweens over and over again as a child, and Scream as well. Scream was like one of my favorite franchises. However, my oldest memory of when horror, like the experience of horror and fear actually that I remember is when I was a child. My mother had just got a new place or whatever with me and my younger brother. I've always had issues going to sleep since I was a child. I would always be the last person in the house to fall asleep. One particular night, my mother happened to go to sleep with the TV on. And for some reason, Tales from the Crypt decided to play while I was the only person in the house awake at a very young age. So I heard a creepy gate, I heard the thunder, I heard music playing that was pretty scary. I looked at the screen, I kept staring at it, don't know why. Everything told me not to watch it, but I couldn't stop watching what I was seeing. So as the camera zooms in, if you're familiar with Tales from the Crypt, you know the intro. Camera basically goes into this creepy ass house and it goes down into the basement. Camera looks to the left and then it comes right and there's a crypt, and it zooms in on the crypt. And then the crypt keeper, in the background here, pops out of the casket and he's a ghoul. He's like an old, macabre body, grotesque body movies. The reason that I gave you that background before I start reviewing this movie is because this movie has this movie affected me in ways that nothing has ever done to me before in my entire life prior to watching this film. The feeling of dread, of just unrelenting existential dread of just there's no escape. This movie does not give you any breaks at all. This, from the opening shot till the ending of this movie, I was hooked. As soon as the movie started, from the score, I already knew that this was gonna be a fucking ride. And before I get into the details of the movie, I just want to say Toni Collette was definitely snubbed at the Oscars because her performance in this movie is one of the best performances I've ever seen in a film, ever. Not just this year, but ever. She was so convincing as Annie, as the mother of this family that just descends into supernatural and existential chaos and dread. Her performance was so goddamn powerful in this movie. I don't understand how anybody could have overlooked this. And it's a damn shame that the horror genre is definitely a genre because of so much of the I would say beat for beat candy type of horror films that people want to go see because they're not taken serious. But this is a serious horror film. It touches up on serious issues and it's not like you can say that it's a horror film, but it's definitely more of a family drama with a little bit of supernatural incidents. But this movie really affected me. Basically, this movie is the breakdown of a family because of mental illness, but there is supernatural elements in it that are basically leading it to the climax. And Toni, the performances were great. Millie Shapiro, I believe this was her first movie, like her first debut. She was so good in this movie. She was creepy. She was amazing. I loved her character. She did very well for this being her first film, and I really want to see more things with her in it. Alex Wolff, He blew me away in this movie as well. You know, some people complain that he overacted a little bit, but I mean, he's a high school kid and it's like all this demonic shit happening, and you know, the stuff that happens that makes him act certain ways is kind of, to me, it made sense for that type of reactions that he was given for some scenes where people may feel he may have overreacted as far as the screaming and crying. But this movie, Ari Aster is amazing. This movie is amazing. He was I've never heard of him before this movie. So before I watched it, somebody told me Ari Aster, oh, that's the guy who did The Strange Thing About the Johnsons. And you can find that on YouTube. It's not necessary to watch, but if you really want to feel uncomfortable and you really want to feel like you need to take a shower and you want to feel like you just hate your life, you can go watch it on YouTube. This movie, like I said, the acting is phenomenal. So you're immersed in this world. This is based in reality very heavily until, you know, the supernatural elements kick in towards the ending. But while you're watching this movie, before I get into the cinematography, the score alone of this movie is very haunting and chilling. I'm telling you, as soon as I hit play and the movie started to play, and the music came on, I immediately was immersed into this story and felt like I had been taken out of my body and my body could not move. Like my soul was removed from my body and I was watching. It was like an outer body experience watching this movie. It literally felt like I astral projected out of my body to watch myself watch this movie, and I was no longer in control of myself, and I was just at the mercy of this very, very horrible, demonic, evil film. And I felt all this before the movie actually really started. This is just from the soundtrack, and then the first frame kicks in. And this is a spoiler review because I don't want to review this a non-spoiler review. It's been out for a while now. If you haven't seen the movie, stop this review, go watch it, and then come back. So as soon as the movie starts, we start off with the camera zooming into this model, these miniature model of a house. And it zooms into it, very eerie and ominous music. And when it zooms into it, at the same time, this is a model of the actual house that they're in, that the family's in. And it zooms into a particular bedroom, and that's when the father comes through the door. And the cinematography on this is beautiful. The way that the camera zooms into the miniature and then it turns into like the actual house. The dad walks in, wakes the son up. They go to a funeral. They go see the daughter. She's upstairs. She's outside, sleep in a treehouse in the cold, with these heaters that she has plugged in. And the dad's like, what are you doing in here? You're gonna catch pneumonia. She's like, oh, that's okay. She's really awkward. There's something off with her. She's mentally impaired. It doesn't really say exactly what's wrong with her, but you definitely pick that up. Toni Collette is basically speaking at the funeral, the eulogy at the wake for her mother who passed away. And she talks about how her mother has all these secrets, and she begins to talk about her relationship with her mother and how she was always secretive. She doesn't really tell her much, and they had a strained relationship. And then once they get home and everything, they be sure to mention that Charlie is the name of the daughter, that she has a peanut allergy, right? So because the father goes up to her and it's like, is there peanuts in there? And she's like, no, it's okay, and there's no peanuts, so the daughter's fine. Toni Collette's basically like, I don't really feel sad that she's dead and this and that. And then she goes sees the daughter, and then she has some little exposition, like, oh, the grandma, she really loved you more than everybody. She was like, grandma wanted me to be a boy. Who's gonna take care of me? And she's like, I am, or your brother. And she's like, yeah, but when you're dead, who's gonna take care of me? And this is the daughter. This is Charlie. So she goes upstairs and she grabs this weird book on spiritualism that her grandmother has, and she looks at it, and in the corner she looks, and very, very creepily is a silhouette of the grandmother. You can barely see it. See, Ari Aster is a genius. He knows just how much of a scene, how much of something to show in the darkness. We go through their mundane, husband-wife routine. She gets into bed, they talk and blah, 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 whatever. So Charlie's at school, and a bird flies into the window and it dies, and everybody in the class jumps, and Charlie's the only one who's dead ass serious, just staring. What does she do? She looks at a pair of scissors. So she goes outside and she cuts the head of the pigeon off and puts it in her pocket. And then there's a creepy old lady across the street waving at her really creepily. And you're like, what the hell is this about? This is where we kind of get a call on the phone that something happened. Basically, somebody dug up the grandmother's body. The dad doesn't want to tell the dad doesn't want to tell the main character, Toni Collette, because he's like, she just died. We're like, what the hell? That's already too much. So she says, I'm going to the movies, and she goes to a group where, like, a support group for people who have lost loved ones. And this is where we get a little bit of backstory about and some exposition that works really well. Usually exposition in movies can be annoying versus them just showing it, but the exposition works really well because we get a very emotional, powerful scene with Toni Collette. So she basically talks about how her brother committed suicide because, her father basically committed suicide as well. He locked himself into a room and starved himself to death. Her brother basically hung himself and committed suicide and had schizophrenia because he was convinced that his mother, that the grandmother, Ellen of the Graham family, was trying to possess his body, was trying to put a demon in his body. Her mother was really manipulative and secretive, and she basically left. She left when she had Peter, the eldest son. She left with the husband and did not spend any time with the grandmother. So she felt guilty afterwards and came back. And then when she had Charlie, the girl, pretty much she said that her grandmother sunk her hooks into Charlie, basically. And Toni, and we get a powerful scene where she's like, she feels blamed, like that all this is happening, and she's trying to hold it together and keep her family together, but she's really, really tired, and she feels really blamed about how broken her family kind of is. And their family's kind of broken. They kind of communicate poorly. There's like a sense of you sense that there's something that happened that is kind of like preventing them from being a loving family. Like there's too much, just a lot of trauma in this family. And it's really disturbing because, this is real life shit. This is like people with mental illness and people who have family members with mental illness are really, really gonna feel this movie. Even if not, if you just love horror films, then you're gonna relate to it. But for people who really deal with this stuff, who have like depression and mood disorders and shit like that, are really gonna really be affected by this movie. I myself, I have depression and anxiety, so this movie really, really affected me because I could relate to it 100%. So we get the exposition about how the grandma might be doing something pretty weird, or it might be mental illness. We're not sure. They do pretty well leaving it out in the open. Then you get the scene in this movie where my soul that was already outside of my body jumped back even further, and I lost complete cognitive function of my body, and I was basically in hell at this point. Watching this movie after a point in the film where this event happens, literally I felt like I was in hell for the rest of the runtime of this movie. So we have Peter, who basically, the brother wants to go to a party. So he tells his mom, hey, there's a school barbecue party I'm gonna go to. Can I borrow the car? And she's like, you want to take your sister? And he's like, does she even want to go? And for me, it was kind of weird. Why would he's a teenager, he's going to a party. His sister's socially awkward. Definitely gonna cock block him if she has to follow him around and he has to babysit. So, the mother's just kind of like, just trying to push Charlie off on him. So he goes to the party. He's kind of mad and pissed off while he's driving, looking in the rearview mirror, and Charlie's just in the back staring out the window, making a clicking noise, and Peter's just like, Jesus fucking Christ, why did she have to come? So, he loves his sister. He does. But, let's be real. If you had a sibling, when you're trying to go to a party, you don't want to have to babysit. So we get the scene. They drive past a car pole. And then you notice really subtly, there's a symbol on this pole. And then you notice that this is the exact same symbol that was on the grandmother's chain when she was in the casket, and also on the Book of Spiritualism. You have to really pay attention with this movie because there's so many subtle things. If you've seen Midsommar, he pretty much just showed you everything that was going to happen before it happened using the folklore paintings and stuff, if you caught it, if you paid attention. He was really throwing it out there for people because a lot of people missed a lot of subtle shit in Hereditary. So it's like, well, you know what? Guess what? I'm going to throw this shit in your face. And a lot of people still didn't even get what the hell he was doing with Midsommar. So, get to the party. The brother basically finds a girl whose butt he was staring at in class, who he obviously wants to smash. He's, like, what's up? So how's this party? And she's like, I don't know, you're here. You tell me. And then he's like, well, I got some really good weed. And she's like, bet. All right, come with me. So the sister is about to come with him. And he's like, oh, Charlie, wait. You should stay down here, because he thinks she's about to get some booty. So he's like, you should stay down here, talk to people. And she's like, but I don't want to. I don't know people. I don't like people. They're weird. And he's like, look, there's cake. Go eat it. So before that scene, when he comes into the house, again, you have to pay attention. Somebody's chopping up peanuts. Remember, she has a peanut allergy. So he goes upstairs and they're watching a video of somebody getting beheaded in black and white. And basically they start smoking and he's getting high. Obviously, he thought he was about to just go in there with her, but there was a few people in there. So, they're smoking weed, doing their thing, being teenagers. So Charlie comes in and she walks up really slowly and she sees Peter and he's like, hey, Charlie, what's up? And she's like, I think my throat's getting bigger. He's like, what? And she gets closer and you can see she's starting to get inflamed and turn red and it looks like her throat's swelling up. So we get a scene. Music gets really, really eerie and dramatic, and he runs downstairs and he gets in a car. He's high out of his mind and he's driving on the freeway really fucking fast because her allergic reaction is really serious. She needs like an EpiPen. So he's on a freeway driving really fast. She's in a backseat asphyxiating, trying to breathe. It's really intense, especially if you have siblings and you're in this situation. Something serious like this is happening when you're high. This scene was so intense and there's nothing supernatural about it. So she's in the back asphyxiating. And he's like, shit, Charlie, I'm gonna get you there. He's driving. There is a dead carcass in the middle of the road. It's completely dark. Charlie rolls the window down, sticks her head out, is trying to get some air. And she gets her fucking head knocked off by a light post. The same post that had the king payment symbol. I mean, the same light that had the symbol that the grandmother had in the chain and on a book. And it just takes you by complete surprise. For some people, they seen it coming. I didn't because I was so immersed in like what was going on at that moment. I wasn't paying attention to anything else outside of her trying to breathe and him getting her to the hospital because I was so concerned. I'm like, please get her to a hospital. I didn't pay attention. And her head gets knocked off by a light post. He stops the car. And he's completely, from this point on in this movie, this dude is basically like in hell. He is like in a state of mind, like he's just out of it completely. And he's like, it's okay. He tries to look up because he knows she's dead. He knows what happened, but he looks in the rearview mirror and he sees the body and then he looks right back down and away. And he's just like, okay, you're fine. Motherfucker drives home, gets out the car, walks into the house. They're like, oh, they're home. Good. You hear Toni Collette. You hear, oh, they're good. He goes in his bed. He lays down. Does not go to sleep. Literally, he gets in the bed, lays down, and then the camera stays on his face, but then it transitions to morning. You hear the mother getting ready. You hear Toni Collette getting ready, going downstairs. And then you hear what is one of the most heartbreaking, saddening screams and cries from Toni Collette's character. This was so powerful. Her performance during this scene shook me to my fucking core and my soul just wanted to cry with her. And she is so convincing with the screams when she sees the body of her daughter inside of the fucking car. Oh my God. It was so unnerving hearing her cry.
I just want to die. Oh, God. I just need to die.
So things start kind of adding up, and they're like, oh shit, this whole entire movie is people making shit happen, and everything that's happening to this family is designed to happen this way. And then you have this complete sense of just, there is no hope for anything. There's no hope. And then this is where the movie gets completely fucking sane. Peter wakes up in the corner. His mother is floating in the corner of the wall. The first time I seen this movie, I didn't see any of this shit. She is literally like Spider-Man on the wall, sitting there looking down at Peter. And then when Peter turns and the camera transitions at this angle, you see Toni Collette's character like gliding, like crawling in midair in the background. And it's so, the context in the picture is so dark, you can miss it if you're not paying attention, which makes it really creepy because when you see it, you're like, holy shit. So Peter goes, he's in the house looking around. He hears a noise, right? It's a piano they have in his house. He just hears like a boom. And he sees the dead body of his father. And he's staring at it. And you see Toni Collette, Annie, again in the fucking corner of the wall. And you're like, she's about to jump down. She's about to jump down, right? So keep in mind, she's in the corner of the wall. It's the last time you see her. So behind him, he's facing this way. He looks that way. He sees a naked, barely visible man from the beginning of the movie that was smiling at Charlie, ass naked in his house with this creepy ass smile staring at him. And he's like, what in the fuck is going on? And then you just hear, he looks, Annie comes out of nowhere, running straight towards him out of the darkness. It's not a jump scare. She just runs straight at him. But you're so focused on the fact that she was up on the roof crawling on the walls. You don't even think she's going to be there. And then he sees the naked dude and you're like, what the fuck? And then you completely forget about Annie. And then she just runs straight at him and he just screams and starts running. He runs upstairs. She smells all the shit. And the mother's body's gone, but nobody moved it. They didn't move the body. The grandmother's body is gone. So Peter sees all this weird shit. And then Toni Collette, like, he goes up into the attic, he pulls the ladder up. Toni Collette is crawling on the roof. Like, if you're on the floor, but she's on the roof doing that, banging her head very intensely and very fast and really, really creepy. It was more creepy than Pennywise banging his head on the screen before he ate the boy. This shit, I was like, what is going on? I literally I was like, okay, this is too much almost. This is almost too much. I hope this shit ends soon. I feel like I'm in hell. Like, I'm just at the mercy of this and this is never ending. Like, and so once he's up there and he sees the bodies, he's like, look, he's like, I'm just so tired of this shit. And he's just looking around. And then you just hear flesh. Like something is tearing into flesh. Like the sound from Evil Dead when the brother's best friend's girlfriend was cutting her face off in the mirror. You just hear that. You just hear like Peter looks up. Annie is floating in the corner of the wall with piano wire around her throat. And she is decapitating herself with piano wire with a very serious, scary, creepy, sinister face, staring at Peter, not saying anything, just, and then it gets faster, and you're like, oh my God, it is so metal. At this point of the movie, literally, my anxiety is at the highest it's ever been in my entire life, and I'm concerned that I'm gonna have a mental breakdown. And I was about to cut this movie off, but I could not move. I know this is a long-ass review. Forgive me, but I really love this movie, and this is a masterpiece to me. So Annie's in the closet, and she's up floating in the air, decapitating herself with piano wire, and I'm just at this point dead inside. I have no soul. It's gone. It's went to hell, and it's just completely under control of whatever demon possessed Ari Aster to make this film. And he's like, look, fam, I got you. I'm gonna send you back, but you gotta experience this first, because, you know, you like horror shit, right? Well, here you go. This is some real shit. Enjoy it. And then once you're done, you're gonna make a channel on YouTube, because all the dread you felt just inspired you to fucking start reviewing movies on top of the other YouTube reviewers. So this is what inspired me to even want to review movies, aside from other YouTubers like Chris Stuckman, Cody Leach, and Spooky Astronauts and Girly Gore, whose videos I absolutely adore. But Ari Aster, Jesus Christ. So even talking about this movie gets me emotional. I've seen it twice. This is like one of my favorite horror movies. But even just bringing up the title on Amazon and looking at the film right now, I want to watch it, but I absolutely choose not to. I can't do it. I refuse to watch it again. I refuse to. I saw it twice. That is enough. Maybe when somebody makes something more terrifying than this, I can go revisit it, because that happened with The Witch. Because this was way more disturbing to me than The Witch. I saw this first, then I saw The Witch, so The Witch wasn't that bad. But if I seen The Witch first, holy fuck. And then Hereditary, I would have died, I think. I'm happy I seen it the other way around. I literally had to go watch explained videos and do a bunch of research on this shit to convince myself that it was just a movie, because it was that disturbing. This is the most disturbing film I've ever seen that is a movie. Some video nasties aren't movies. They're just fucking dialogue and just shit, just shock value. This is an actual movie. It's not just shock value. There's a story here. There's characters. They have personalities. This isn't just some dude who's a doctor who just sews people's mouths to buttholes. I don't know, some people do enjoy the Human Centipede series and stuff like that. Nothing against you if you like it. You know, we all got different tastes who are subjective. But that's just not my thing. Just certain movies, I need to have like a real story, like real characters and developed characters. And this movie is terrifying. But yeah, to give this movie a grade, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. If you wanna give me any suggestions on the next one, my options for review next are the other two films that disturbed me almost as much as this, but not quite. Mother, The Witch, Midsommar, and The Lighthouse. If you appreciate my views, if you appreciate the content, no pressure. You can also follow me on Patreon if you want to be a paid dues member, and to the Dread Emperor, to the Black Horror Review. Yeah, so again, it's Raymond, Dread Lord, the Dread Emperor from Black Horror Review, and see you later. Peace.
I was always Daddy's little girl. What about you? you still his little girl, Beverly?